This is a meeting of the Climate Resiliency Committee to cover order number 26-1009-726, communication from Councilor Dave Doucette regarding requests for the city to investigate geothermal energy. There's some handouts and there's some stuff that's also been posted on the website. There's some updates that need to be done for the data on the website that'll show up in the next council meeting. What I wanted to do really is just go through some general ground rules issues for now. I'm doing this through PowerPoint because basically I organize my own notes in PowerPoint, so it made it easier to do that. So the goal of these series of meetings is to develop a proposal for a feasibility study. I expect multiple meetings with different speakers and specialists based upon who shows up and what we need. But the structure of the meeting, we get the agenda, we have new business, old business, approve the minutes, all that. This is an ongoing series of meetings. And if, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, if this is not the appropriate approach. So, you know, the assumption's basically that we will have multiple meetings with different speakers, specialists, probably plan a few meetings ahead. I'd like to try to do meetings every other week or so and try to get things paced that way. And I think the fundamental assumption here is that basically the cost of getting energy to us is cheaper than the energy itself, and we got to start developing our own local energy. And fossil fuels seems to be a likely, thermal exchange networks would be a likely candidate for us to heat and cool our homes. So, hold on. For today's new business, Black Swan Lab will be doing a presentation when they show up. There's other actions. I've been discussing, but hadn't put it into the draft of the editorial, but having a non-binding referendum in 2027 ballot and getting that in place to get the view of the people of the city, whether or not they want to do something like this. And basically, you know, the infamous search for funding for the feasibility study, et cetera. So we don't have to cover a lot of the cost. The use of AI. I've been toying with AI, just doing research with this, and I found it very effective. And if there's a structure for a proposal for a feasibility study, you could feed it into AI and it'll give you the first draft. I'm not saying it's the final draft, but it will give you a first draft that you can then walk through, edit, and change as necessary. The other part of AI is actually just to, if we can capture geological data of Marlboro, feed it into an AI model and ask them where to drill the wells. So there's opportunities with the technology I think we need to be keeping an eye on. Oops. And that's basically the 3 slides that I had. You know, when we get the minutes, we'll go through that in for the next meeting. For the 3 of us, are we comfortable having a meeting in like 2 weeks? 2 weeks from Tuesday? 2 weeks from today? Are you guys available for that? That'd be the 21st.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm good.
You get both of you guys? So I'm getting confirmation from
We have the council meeting on the 20th.
on the 20th. That's fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I mean, I can confirm I would be available in the evening of the 21st. I think just, you know, so long as we know kind of who's coming, who's presenting,
Yeah.
what, yeah, right, all that
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
stuff ahead of time, I
Yeah.
would be comfortable with that.
Yep. Yep.
7 p.m.?
7. We'll do 7 p.m. Yep.
Dave, they're here.
Ah, you are here. Excellent. Yeah. Just planning the next meeting after this one. We're meeting in 2 weeks again. So for folks online, the folks from Black Swan Labs just showed up. So do you want to start with the presentation now? You good? Okay, let me switch controls for a minute.
slideshow up there? Oh, okay. Your slideshow up on the top, too. I don't know that. And then I'll have an accident in these. There you go.
I just have to think about, there's the remotes.
Whoa, switch this on to power.
You can stand there with the mic.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, pleased to talk to you all. Thank you so much for the honor of being here. I'm Audrey Schulman. I'm the executive director at Black Swan Lab. We do practical solutions to solve, to reduce climate change. And we're funded by the Barr Foundation. Cool. So I don't know if you've heard of thermal networks, but I'll explain what they are in a second, but the very first one installed ever in the world by a gas utility is installed in Framingham. And it's quite exciting, and I was lucky enough to be one of the major people to help make it happen. No. Okay, good. This is a thermal network. To give you a better idea what it is heat pumps, if you know what heat pumps are. They're basically like air conditioners that can run forward or backward, so they provide heating and cooling. But instead of pulling that temperature from the air outside, which, as you can imagine, is very volatile in temperature, they pull temperature from pipes under the ground, where it's way easier to control the temperature of the water, so that the heat pumps connected can always work at their greatest efficiency. And so because of that, they are very, very efficient. There we go. So they get that temperature of the water, which is just not hot, not cold. It's an ambient temperature range between like 40 and 90 degrees. So it's just keeping it sort of, it would be cold almost to your touch by running the water either through boreholes, in this case, or getting that temperature from wastewater. This is an installation going in Syracuse that will be owned by National Grid, and the county in Syracuse, I think, will be selling the wastewater temperature to National Grid. Or that you can get that thermal energy from waste heat, such as from an ice rink. So an ice rink, you can imagine, is always wants lots and lots of cold, so it would return the water into that pipe hotter, and that heat can then go to homes down the street. Every ice rink produces enough temperature to heat 50 homes.
Yikes.
Yeah. It's a shame to waste.
And we get 12 rinks in Marlboro.
Exactly.
That doesn't count the Maven.
So you've got a lot of this right here. So thermal networks are being installed everywhere across the continent. In Europe, they're installing systems of 10,000 units at a time. So they can go very large. There's some of the, sorry for the...
Quick question on
Yeah.
the other, go back a minute. What's the why are there different colors? Is there?
Some of them are owned by utility, you can go to that link, it's Building Decarbonization Coalition.
Okay.
And look, I think some of them are owned by utilities, some of them are owned by universities, some of them are wastewater, some of them are waste
Okay.
heat, some of them are, so it's different types of thermal networks. So one of the things they can do is radically reduce, because they're so efficient, our electric peaks as we move more and more towards electricity for everything. So this is ISO New England's prediction of how much electricity New England will need in the future. And on the left, how much that might cost to increase our transmission that much. So 25 billion at the top. So the more we can bring that peak down, the lower our electric bills will be, and that's just transmission. It's going to be much more also to do distribution system. So here's Oh, wait, I gotta get hold, okay, there we go. Here's a estimate on how much thermal networks can save. Each of these lines, each of these are pathways towards that electrification, towards all of our buildings using only electricity, different methods using air source heat pumps, et cetera. And thermal networks have the lowest peak use. And so they can save us an enormous amount, not only in transmission, but also in distribution system. And all of that, all of us get electric customers, we're the ones who pay. So what this means is thermal networks can reduce how much our electric bills rise in the future, which Lord knows everybody would be happy about after last winter.
So back up a note. So in this one in particular, what is the ramp up of thermal networks in doing that on the existing customer base? I mean, what's your build-out assumption to make
So
that
that's
type
by
of-
2050. This is for New England. This is done by E3, which is, and they were assuming, I think 22% of homes would go to thermal networks and 49% of businesses.
22% of homes?
And 49% of businesses. And so that is, but any thermal network, each thermal network will reduce your electric peak in comparison
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
to air source heat pumps, et cetera. Anybody have air source heat pumps here? I do too. They're great, and this is better. So your thermal energy bills, they will be, so this is with gas furnace. This is by Applied Economics Clinic. The next one is your annual heating bill for the average Massachusetts home with thermal network using the heat pump rate that we currently have. But we're probably moving to a version 2 of the heat pump rate. And so the thermal network charge, annual heating charge would be even lower. So that is if it's done, this is a prediction by Applied Economics Clinic, if it's done by a gas utility, and that's a for-profit gas utility.
Right.
But you've got another option open, which is you could have them installed by your municipality, which is non-profit, right? You don't need to pay back the investors. Denver is doing it, is installing thermal networks now. They're going to do so with wastewater as well as with boreholes. Boise, Idaho has a system that's been functioning since the 70s, I think, maybe the 80s. West Union has had one for 20 years. And Ann Arbor, Michigan is currently installing one. So this is an option available to you. And that would reduce the costs for all of your residents in comparison to a for-profit utility doing it. But for-profit utilities are always an option, yes?
So I know one of these, and I forget which one it was, might have been the West Union, the ones that's been there for a while. It seems that in these cases, some of the older networks, are they expanding the network, or is it staying the way it is? Because it seems that they don't seem to expand much.
And Karen's here too, and so she'll correct me if I get any of this wrong, and she can look stuff up as we talk. But I believe Boise, if I remember correctly, is expanding, and West Union has been bringing more, not expanding the loop if I remember correctly, but has been adding more customers to it. And the more they do that, the lower cost it is for each customer. Mm-hmm. Because you've already installed the system, and so the customers are paying back for the installation and the operations and maintenance. So the more you have on the system.
So the town I was just going to ask that, does the operation and maintenance of the system as well?
Yeah, in West Union, I think they have a nonprofit that they subcontract to do that. Or for-profit, I think it's for-profit, or they call it a for-profit, and it doesn't seem to make much profit. And Boise, I think they have the city do it. And, we can put you in contact with either one if you want. And Ann Arbor is just installing now, and it's using a Department of Energy grant.
Okay.
A number of cities nearby that have utilities. The municipality runs the utilities.
Yes, yeah. I mean, and you run your water and your sewer, I assume.
Yes.
So, and it would be very similar to that. And if you do it, you're not gonna, it'll be much, you won't change the energy, the thermal bill much, as opposed to for-profit utilities potentially. So there's a lot of Massachusetts municipalities who are interested in thermal networks, and that's partly because the tax credit exists still, not for solar, not for renewable, but it does for thermal networks on boreholes. And so these are all the feasibility studies of different Massachusetts towns who want to go to thermal networks. And that IRA tax credit is 30 to 50% of the cost. So that's a chunk of potential savings right now.
So the 30 to 50% is taken over for how many years?
It's just the cost of the installation.
Right,
So if you
but-
spent $10 million, you would get $5 million back, up to $5 million back.
Right, but how many years does it take to depreciate? I went through all this, when I had my solar panels installed,
Oh,
I got 3-year depreciation schedule for the solar panels.
so
And I'm
as
wondering what the depreciation schedule
I'm not sure I'm going to get the depreciation right,
Yeah.
but as I understand it, it's a direct pay so it never leaves the municipality's pocket. So it's not
Oh.
depreciation, it's like just.
Okay, it's a grant,
Basically,
basically.
yeah.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
a quick clarification.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Thank you. What is how long is that funded through?
I think it's 2035.
It's 33.
33? Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to have the person in the back will correct me each time I'm wrong.
That's great. Thank you.
So in Marlboro, you got 2 wastewater treatment plants, not one, but 2. And you've got the largest ice rink in North America. And you've got the ground everywhere. So you've got 3 really great options to get that thermal energy from. And so let's look at them a little more closely. Right now, here's one of your wastewater treatment plants up in the corner there. And you can see there's a lot of buildings nearby. Most of them are commercial. You've got, if I remember correctly, about 3.5 million gallons per day through that wastewater treatment plant. So that means you have enough for about, approximately 300 homes, which is probably several of those large commercial buildings.
300 homes will get my neighborhood. And
Yes.
It's right down in the bottom.
Yeah, there you go. You just have to get the pipe there. Right now, there's a Department of Environmental Protection grant to do both the feasibility study, the design, and the installation of that wastewater energy recovery system. So that's just the thermal source. You'd still have to install the distribution system, and there'd still be the building conversions. And that DEP grant is a rolling grant. They've got only $5 million. So once that's used up, that goes. You can't, that offer is not there anymore. So I recommend you look at that first.
Is it a rolling grant period, or does it refresh every year?
It's just the first time they've ever offered it. I don't think, I don't think they have plans to offer it again.
Okay.
Here's the New England Sports Center. You got a lot of homes across the highway. That's, again, because you got 12 ice rinks there. In my rough figuring, you've got enough to heat 600 homes, because it's 50 homes approximately per ice rink. So there's a lot of homes. Or you could do on this side.
But
The
they
cr-
were for profit. They would have, obviously, we would need to get their permission to.
Oh, yeah.
They would
yeah.
make money off of this.
Yes, they could get revenue from it. And I looked up on the web, and, Lord knows if it's right, but it looks like one of their HVAC units might be fairly old.
So
So
we could-
that might be a time that they might be very interested in replacing it and moving to the system where they're selling their heat.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
thank you. What is forgive my ignorance on a heat pump and how these networks work, but what is the capacity? What's the distance for something like this to be functional? Right,
You mean
we
how far
point up
can-
to those homes into the commercial, but how far?
The Framingham installation is a 1-mile loop approximately. There's other installations that are bigger. The frame, you want to, generally you want to have some thermal source every, half mile, something like that, so you can bring things back to temperature if you need to.
Thanks.
Yes, they're modular, so you can install one and then grow over time. They're like Lego blocks. that you
Even though
can-
each block is a well that's 300 to 600 feet deep, right?
Yes, if you do boreholes, they're 300 to 600 feet deep.
Right, or if you're able to tap into a sewer tap or something like that.
Right, there could be a sewer interceptor in there too, et cetera.
So one of the things that we talked about is that the network itself, because it's all under the frost line, the network actually provides a thermal register as well. So if it travels further, it's still in ground temperature. So if it comes back warm, and if it travels half a mile to a well, it may actually be at ground temperature before it gets to its destination. Because of the length of the pipes, it's still underground, so.
Yeah.
Is that-
Do you want to just speak to the thermal battery aspect of
Yeah, and it's
You want to
also-
come up to the mic and
the?
speak?
I'm just like the supplemental.
Okay.
So one of the things is the water itself has an enormous amount of thermal storage in it, right? If that water, there's an installation at Colorado Mesa University with over 100,000 gallons of water in that loop that's over a mile long. And so if that water of 100,000 gallons in that big pipe running around the system is at 90 degrees, that's an enormous thermal battery that you can pull the temperature off at any time. It's equivalent to many, many, therms of gas. And I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but it's a giant battery. And if you did it to those businesses instead, each of them use energy in a very different way. So one of them would be taking heating and making the water colder. The next one would be taking cold maybe and making the water, they would go back and forth, and you'd get simultaneous load cancellation also, right? That ice rink to the homes kind of concept. And here's Boston Scientific, which I believe, Dave, you've talked to them or something, and they might be...
Someone talked to them and they expressed interest in putting geothermal in, yes.
So they might do boreholes. There's a lot of buildings around them. There's some schools, et cetera. And that way, they might take on the cost of doing the boreholes, and you just do the distribution system. Or you choose your utility to do the distribution system.
So this could be something that, say, could go to the hospital, which is the emergency department at UMass, or it could go to the high school and the elementary school, Goodenow Brothers up in front.
Yeah, you're missing the dental care place in the corner. Yes,
Yeah.
you could do it many different ways.
Yeah.
And this would be, you'd want to do an engineering study to try to figure this out. But if there's a lot of different ways forward here, I would talk to Boston Scientific, check and make sure they're interested in this concept, and then potentially do a feasibility study. I would go to New England Sports Center and ask, hey, is your HVAC old? And do you want revenue? And I would fill out the Massachusetts DEP grant for wastewater energy recovery. We will help you. We're already doing that for South Hadley and potentially for, we'll find out, but maybe for other towns. So we are happy to do that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
In the area of Boston Scientific, we have a capped landfill, as well as an ice skating rink right across the street.
Really?
Yes, it's a Naven rink. It's one rink, but
Related to
curious,
Councilor Naven.
That white,
curious on
who
cap.
is that bike field? That white building right next to it.
No, all the way.
there?
Yeah.
You're just curious on capped landfills. Can they be utilized in any way for this type of energy?
I would think you'd have to go, so you probably don't want to do boreholes on the capped land because you don't want to go through the cap and break it. And
No, I don't want
is
Just-
that all of that capped land? The parking lot,
parking lots possibly,
yeah,
those areas. Yeah,
all of that is capped? Okay.
just curious,
I'm not an engineer, but I assume that might be that might be a problem.
just the edges maybe, or the parking lots you were saying, for the cap landfill, if there's parking lots there and that aren't capped.
Yeah, then I would assume you would not want the boreholes anywhere in the capped land, however far
I
out.
understand.
On-cap land should be fine. Yeah.
Good.
I was talking with Priscilla Ryder. She said that, you know, and we have to get Priscilla Ryder and probably Ted from DPW up in here because, you know, can we drill in conservation land? And is, you know, if we're doing just a thermal capture, is that considered stewardship of conservation land? Because it's a very minor, you know, insignificant impact. But there's a whole bunch of conservation land around here and other places that we could tap into.
Yeah, I think if it's state land, then you have to do Article 97, if I remember correctly. And so the EEA, the governor's office might want to make that process simpler. So if you want to go to them to ask for a simpler process, that would probably be helpful for you and others.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Trey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. So looking at these three sites, right, the wastewater treatment plant, the New England Sports Center, and Boston Scientific, I can understand that with the wastewater treatment plant, we're using the actual wastewater itself. We wouldn't be drilling bore fields there in theory, right? And same is true for the Sports Center and Boston Scientific, yeah?
Right, yes.
So how are we?
Boston Scientific would be drill holes, boreholes,
Okay,
but the other two would not be.
I guess my question is, how are we capturing the waste heat from these sites? I mean, I'm just
Yeah,
unfamiliar.
no,
with
it's a
this, right?
totally confusing concept. So wastewater has temperature to it, all those warm showers,
Fermenting stuff.
It's generally between 60 and 90 degrees.
Sure.
Which is the kind of temperature that heat pumps are very happy and they work very efficiently with to provide you the temperature you want in your house, whether heating or cooling. With ice rinks, you would only be able to provide heating because you'd be the ice rink would take all the cold off the water and all the homes would get all the heat, or any businesses.
Thank
that-
you. Yeah, no,
okay.
that helps a lot. Thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
And the bedrock, you get temperature because it's in this area, it's about 55 degrees all the time, which again is a temperature range that makes heat pumps happy.
Sure. And that's what Eversource is doing in Framingham. Those are 3 bore fields that they drilled
Yes.
on, sounds like municipal property.
Yes.
Right, to then heat that small neighborhood.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you.
So here's some press for different thermal networks. Here's the Black Swan Lab team that we have. We're available, we got the Center of Public Enterprise, who tries to figure out how public money can help economic everything. We got Thermal Energy Insights, Eric Bosworth, who installed the Eversource Framingham thermal network, and now he's on his own. And Lord knows what happened to all the formatting on this. And then we got Jamie von Nostren, who was the Department of Public Utilities chair last year in Massachusetts, and now is at the Future of Heat Initiative. And so we are ready to help out with economic and financial questions, with technical questions, with legislative and regulatory questions, and with who owns what, how. So if you're interested, please just, any more questions, we're happy to help. We will help you do grants. We will help you do, take whatever steps you want forward on this issue, because I think Marlboro can lead on this, and we would love to help.
So go back to the 3 bullets of next steps type thing. Reach out to New England Sports Center, reach out to Boston Scientific. That's ours to do. But the DEP grant for wastewater energy recovery, you said you could do that.
We would need numbers from your,
Like
DEP, DPW.
DPW.
Yeah.
Okay. And it wouldn't, so if we do this quickly, we could get basically the grant for free,
Potentially, yeah.
potentially.
And
The
it is-
sooner is better, right?
Sooner is better. The other thing to know about, the other thing to know is, well, two things to know. One, they prioritize underserved communities, so if you can get any affordable housing, or, have it in any environmental justice area, it's better. And the second thing to know about that grant is that you can also use a sewer interceptor, so it does not have to be at the treatment plants.
Okay. It could be what I understand is basically you drop a hose loop into a sewer pipe that can be as long as it needs to be, because it's just a sewer pipe, and that's how you capture the thermal energy, right?
I think it might be a little more complex than that, but we
Okay.
could go, you put a heat exchanger in the pipe potentially, or you pull the wastewater out into another
Redirect
pump
and do
house.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, and these seem to make great sense to me, as everyone else I suspect. However, they're all on the north and east side of Marlboro. There's not much on the west side of Marlboro, where we're having a lot of development these days, and we have some Fortune 500 companies on that side. Does it not make sense to not put all of our baskets and all of our apples in the Boston Scientific basket and open it up to other industries here in town?
So I recommend always exploring as many options as possible to figure out which one works best. And if you want things on the west side of town, I think you have another treatment plant on that side. I did not look at that one. I just, so we could look at that one instead.
Would a feasibility study tell us the best path forward?
Yes, and it depends, feasibility studies would cost some money unless you did it through, the DEP wastewater energy recovery grant. So, and that's only for $15,000. So I just want to, so the bigger the feasibility study, the more money the town might have to pay, but it might be well worth it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm curious about the end side of it, and that's how much disturbance in the streets would have to happen to pipe this to each individual house, such as my neighborhood. They're going to be replacing gas lines. Wouldn't this be the appropriate time maybe to put in these pipes for future heat from these thermal energy units? But I'm curious how that works, and how big is the pipe, how much disturbance in the street, that type of situation.
It's very similar to a gas pipe replacement. What you'll be going through, it will be very similar. If you had to drill boreholes, that would be a different thing, but that would generally be away from the house and in a parking lot nearby. So it's a pipe maybe a little bit bigger than a gas pipe, and instead of one service pipe going to your house, you'd have a service loop, a pipe going to your home and then one coming back. And other than that, it's about the same. And yes, of course, it's a great time to install a thermal
Well, that's what I was
network.
going to say. In other cities and towns like Denver or wherever you mentioned, Boise and so forth, have they utilized piping to the homes with other utilities when they were putting in their utilities, or is this something they had to put in themselves? Just thinking of tearing up the streets more than once.
Yeah,
That's-
gosh, you never want to, right? It's limited Chapter 90 funding, isn't it? Yeah, so you always want to do as many utilities, underground utilities, as you possibly can. And Worcester has a cooperative paving program. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, where they have all the underground utilities tell them where they want to work over the next 5 years. And then they sequence them together. And it allows the paving dollars to go, 60% further. So I recommend you consider that. And Karen, you wanted to add?
Just to say, you could ask your gas utility what their plans are for the next 4 years and see where they're going to be planning to replace pipes, because the electric utilities have the option of putting money into what they call a non-pipeline replacement, which would be exactly this if they choose to, rather than the millions of dollars per mile to replace the pipe. There are pros and cons of working with utilities, as all of they know, but it certainly is another avenue to explore.
Yes.
you could see if there's overlap on any of these maps that Audrey has described of potential locations with what they call G7 modules, gas system enhancement program.
So I appreciated that explanation. It was really good, which is why I wanted you in front of a mic. Okay? Okay.
So, yeah, the gas utilities do replace pipes. They have funds to do that. They are allowed to instead install this kind of system.
As a replacement.
Instead of a gas pipe replacement. And
Even if it's not gas.
if it's not gas, yeah, it's called a non-pipeline alternative. That's their term.
Okay.
And they can do this type of system.
Even if they lose customers doing it.
It's a super complicated legal problem right now in the middle, and the Senate and the House and everybody's fighting over it, so I won't get into that one.
Okay.
But it should be clarified soon, that legal issue.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. I want to clarify something, again, on how these work. So is it similar, is it like you mentioned the airflow heat pumps that people have at their homes, right? Is it similar to that regard in that it has capacity or has limits to the capacity for temperatures and whatnot? Will this completely replace somebody's home heating and cooling, or will it kind of be like a dual fuel system? Will retain their own?
So instead of having, first off, air source heat pumps, if they're cold climate, they should be able to deliver all the heating and cooling you need, assuming your home, you have the windows closed. Right? That should work at this point. They're very, very capable. But this system, it has an easier time of it because when it's super cold or super hot outside, the water in the pipes down below, in the ground, is still the same temperature. It's not 100 degrees, it's not 0 degrees. Yeah. And so the heat pumps connected can work at just perfect efficiency all the time, delivering you the heating or cooling you need. And in addition, there's generally a backup heating and cooling system attached to the system so that you don't have to, each customer doesn't have to have a backup. The water pipe themselves has a backup on
What is
it.
that? What is that fueled by?
It can be fueled by gas or electricity or whatever. The Eversource one is electric.
Got it. Okay.
And there's many ways you can do it.
Yep, that's helpful.
And those are outages. That would effectively be an outage, recovery from an outage, right?
It could be many things.
Yeah.
It could be like, something's gone terribly wrong.
Right.
And you need to get the water up to temperature again. There's the installation in Colorado Mesa has a gas boiler attached to it. In 15 years, they've never had to use the gas boiler to do that. But it's there as a supplemental backup system just in case.
Yep. And then my other question was the communities you showed that had already done feasibility studies, I think it was Somerville, Lexington, Arlington, a couple of the other communities. What are they doing now? I don't know when they were completed, but kind of what is the takeaway for these communities?
They're each confused about what the next step is. They're trying to figure out, do they have the gas utility do it? Do they bring in a third party? Do they do it themselves? Where does the money come from? How do they govern it, et cetera?
Yeah.
And so that is exactly why Black Swan Lab is trying to help.
Great, thank you.
And wait, can I have Karen say something that might be?
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if Karen, for the
Can you
TV
please-
audience, you got to come
Thank
up,
you.
otherwise it's not of any value.
It's a small issue, it's very tiny. I was just going to say that this is not so much an issue in Marlboro, I imagine, but for many communities, they don't have cooling, and they're getting cooling for the first time with this system. So when we look at even the idea of a cost comparison, a lot of times they forget to factor in what does it cost to do air conditioning and all that. So this is sort of a cooling and heating system, especially double benefit for people that don't otherwise have cooling.
One other thing, basically, it's not just heating and cooling, but they also provide hot water. The system can
Yes,
also
domestic
provide
hot water.
So, yeah.
Mr. Chair, and correct me if I'm wrong, let's go back to our very famous skating rink that's going to...
Yeah, there you go.
That's going to supply 500 homes.
600, yeah.
600 homes. This is a system that goes to all the different homes. If there's a crack anywhere in that system where that water is not continuing, now that we have 600 homes that don't have hot and cold, is that correct?
Yes, same as if your, an electric wire broke or a gas pipe broke, yeah.
So when the system's down, it affects everybody that's on the system.
But that's also why there was a backup in Colorado that hasn't been used in 15 years.
Yes, but if there's something catastrophic, if, somebody's doing construction and they dig into a
Big
pipe,
site.
that pipe is out. They generally have shut-off valves. There's same sort of process as exists with gas and with electric, only it's way less dangerous, right? You hit a gas pipe, there's trouble.
Thank you.
I mean, if we stay on New England Sports Center just for heating, it could go up Bigelow Street, and do the neighborhoods of Bigelow Street, which is the street that goes under 290. Yeah, that one. Or go down Donald Lynch Boulevard and start doing the actual office buildings in there. And we're brokers. Like, we buy it from New England Sports Center and we sell it to someone else, but we basically do thermal exchange broking.
And I would state that this is an incredible economic development option, because if done through the city, you can tell people their energy bill for the next 50 years, just pegged to inflation. You know what the operations and maintenance is, you know what the installation cost was. Every business for the next 50 years would know what their heating and cooling bill would be, which would be one of the biggest ways you could help businesses, especially now. It would be amazing.
Mr. Chair, if I can.
Yes.
One of your biggest businesses was a very promising business when it was a mall. Malls are slowly starting to go away. My wife was down at the mall last week when it was very hot, and they weren't running their air conditioning that well. They're trying to save cost. This would be a win-win if New England Sports Center could provide energy, such as thermal energy, to that mall, because they're looking at variable options, including housing, and this would be the time to consider that type of situation if they go that route. And they got lots of parking area too, so who knows, backup wells and so forth. But
Yeah.
you're right next to a place that's looking for help, and this would be helpful to the mall.
But I agree that it could be helpful to the mall, but not necessarily from New England Sports Center, because
where-
I see a whole bunch of customers between there and there.
Yes.
I mean, this is a great photo because it shows New England Sports Center on one side, and that big honking building on the other side is basically Solomon Pond Mall. But all that parking space could be made into well fields that could then support going back. It's almost like a barbell effect, right?
Exactly.
You got one on one side and one on the other side feeding the middle. But,
Yeah, I agree.
when it comes, anything that could be done with New England Sports Center could be something of a, restoration, low-income housing, all that as well.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
you're very welcome. Any other questions at this point? Yes, Trey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one quick question, and I was taking a look at that map that you'd referenced of the different geothermal networks, the thermal energy networks, right? I found the web link, and just looking, I can't help but notice that there are no other thermal energy networks currently in New England, right? A lot of them are district energy, which sounds like it's other renewables, correct me if I'm wrong, and then smaller geothermal networks. But you'd mentioned that Mass DEP has a grant for wastewater recovery specifically. Is there any such funding for like these, the different bore field drilling sites, that sort of stuff? Because to me, it seems like what Framingham's doing is maybe a little bit more palatable, right? It's a lot smaller. I know they're still in the pilot program. We're less than 2 years into the construction, but, or post-construction, I should say. But is there any kind of funding for something like that rather than a full-scale thermal energy network?
So you're asking, is there any funding for just the boreholes part?
Yeah, just because I think right, I appreciate what we're talking about, but all of this would be a full-scale thermal energy network, it sounds like. All three of these sites, that would be kind of the ad.
Yep, and so you're thinking a more single building
Yeah, right,
installation.
just because I'm not seeing, I mean, the map, there's a few across the U.S., like you'd referenced, but there's nothing in New England for this. We would be really kind of...
Oh, no, Smith College has just finished it. Mount Holyoke is doing their entire campus.
And that's a thermal energy network. It's not, to me, I got the impression that they're using existing renewables and stuff like that. No, they're doing a thermal.
They're doing boreholes. I think Mount Holyoke has a central plant, so it's a slightly different model.
Gotcha.
And they're doing it in 3 phases to interconnect.
Okay.
I don't know as much about Smith College.
Sure. But regardless, yes, this would be cutting edge, but other people are kind of doing.
Yeah, more, and National Grid's also doing it in Dorchester. There are other installations in Massachusetts.
Can I just add something?
Beverly is
Yeah.
one as well.
Just to add to your question about where's the money, this is not a done deal, but the current environmental bond bill that is going to be going to conference committee has $15 million for pretty much anything related to thermal energy networks, which could include,
Right,
grant for the
Warfield.
bullhorn. So this would be, it's $15 million grant, it's not a bond. So if that makes it through the committee, we'll make sure you know about it so you can apply for some money.
Thank you.
So, Mike, you want to say anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the cases you've cited are all, like Smith College, Holyoke College, they're all the one user. The concept of putting one in Marlboro, I now got to convince people and/or commercial folks to change their current heating system to a geothermal system, right? So hang on. So solar, as Councilor Doucette has told me, and finally after years going that way, I don't have an electricity bill. But that was a $30,000 investment on my part, which I won't see the payback in for 5 years,
Yep.
to do that. So how do I convince residential users, commercial, the West Union one, I just sent you all the case study. There's only 12 individuals or 12 buildings hooked up to that, but they're all in there downtown, and I'm assuming the downtown gang flex some muscle to say, okay, we all want to participate. How do I go to a resident and say, your neighborhood, we want to make sure you all go on to geothermal? That is not an easy ask.
I totally agree. And so one of the greatest things we're working on, the biggest problems, is how to pay for the building retrofits. If we can do that, I think, from the Eversource Framingham installation, every customer they contacted, except for one, said yes, so long as the building retrofits were paid for, because they were getting cooling, because they were getting their improved indoor air quality, because
But that was an important thing you just glossed over, as long as it was being paid for.
Right,
By
so-
who?
Yes, so that's the critical thing. So right now with the Inflation Reduction Act, there is part of the thing, the way to get that is to own the heat pump. And so it's possible that whoever installs it, if they include the heat pumps, which is a large portion of the cost of the building retrofits, they get more credit, they get more of a tax write-off. And then also with the municipality, which has the mandate to do public good, if you did either revenue bonds for this, your cost of capital would be so much lower in comparison to a gas utility. You could still give people lower energy bills and make back that money. And the only people paying for it would be the people connected to the system.
So
You could do
it's
it-
interesting, this West Union case study, the city doesn't own their utility, if you will, they rent it. So, there's still some work to be done. I guess.
Oh, crazy amounts. I do not want to, yes, that's why we have the team to be able to help, to let you choose the ways forward. But
So-
I think you've raised the biggest issue there is.
And I want to add to that, because basically, there is the federal funding through the IRA tax credit. There is state grants to help with payment. I do believe that we should be, as a city, doing TIFs for these types of projects. So there's 3 buckets of money that we can help fund it. There is a return on investment, which even if it's 5 years, after 5 years, you're in the gravy as far as savings goes. At the end, I would hope that, based upon what analysis I've done, is that, if we do, well, let me phrase it. Any thermal exchange network should be locking in a price point for heating and cooling for 10 years, for the 10 years, which is effectively covering the cost of the bonds. So from the financial side, if we know what the bonds cost are and we're getting a customer base, that should actually be enough to cover the bonds as we go forward. And then after the 10-year contract's over, you see where we are in 10 years as far as price point goes. And hopefully we're lower than what they came in at the beginning of the 10 years. Because as long as we're undercutting fossil fuels, which should be pretty easy, we're showing cost savings, and the businesses will look at that. I mean, Boston Scientific is looking to do this on its own because they see the savings.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes, sir.
I was just looking at it again today, and thank you, Councilor Austin, for sharing your article. Councilor Roby shared an article with us from the Boston Globe on June 15th. It was about geothermal energy and pretty much speaks to what Councilor Doucette just said, is after those years go by of cost, then you're, as you said, in the gravy, but I'd say in the hot water or cool water. But that's a very interesting article. It was on June 15th that Sarah shared it with us from Councilor Roby. I would suggest going back to that article. It was excellent it was in the Globe, and it was about geothermal energy. It talks about one of the universities, I think Smithfield in Massachusetts. It was a very interesting pros and cons, but spoke to the long-term effects, and I thought that'd be helpful for this committee to keep on file.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I mean, just as far as solar panels goes, I had solar panels installed 10 years ago. I own them, okay, which is an important part of this. And yeah, I paid them off in 7 years. It was a 7 year, 0% loan, almost like a car. But after that, and I have a contract for SRECs for 20 years. So I am making money off my
Home gas bills. I can't imagine what a business is paying if I'm paying $900. So I feel like, as you said, relative to fossil fuel costs, it's really...
As long as we show a price point that's lower than that. And part of the feasibility study is basically proving within the feasibility study that it can be done at a price point that makes it competitive against fossil fuels. So that's the end result of the feasibility study. So thank you for this presentation. My question to members of the committee: do we want to take an action to do a feasibility study just on waste heat, wastewater energy recovery as a feasibility study, and say, yes, Trey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I would encourage that we have the city go after this Mass DEP grant funding for that wastewater recovery before kind of committing ourselves to anything like that. I wouldn't want to commit to a feasibility study without knowing what funding we would have for it, right? So I think, it's encouraging to hear that there is, grant funding out there for this kind of a project, but I'm not sure. I don't know if Priscilla has if you guys have talked about this before, or if there's been an effort from the city to attain any of this funding. I'm not sure. I guess
Not at this point, no. I was going to talk to Priscilla and Ted to come in and talk to us in the next meeting. So, but I think so just as far as the wastewater, wastewater energy recovery, do you also agree in doing, all those in favor and just getting a feasibility study just on wastewater recovery? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, you're not allowed to make a motion.
Thank you very much for that correction. I appreciate that.
So go back to what you said at the beginning of the meeting. We need a couple, 1 hour in, I'm not going to go commit funds or try to get funds for something I don't fully understand.
Okay.
My opinion. I'll let the committee decide what they want, but I'll tell you where I stand right now. There's still a little more work, I think, that's got to be done before I'm going to go commit any municipal resources to something that's not well understood yet. We only met for 1 hour. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. So, anyone interested in, yes, Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion to explore the feasibility, to explore funding sources for a feasibility study.
Okay, for wastewater energy?
Yes,
Okay,
just to explore monies available for feasibility, whether it's through a conservation commissioner or through our DPW.
okay,
And utilizing Black Swan as well.
okay. I'll second that. All those in favor? Discussion. Oh, discussion first. Any discussion? Yes, Trey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just clarifying question. So, right, this doesn't commit us to a feasibility study, but rather kind of gives the intention that this body would like to have folks come before us at our next meeting to address, kind of clarify some questions about what the wastewater recovery feasibility study would look like, and then
Right.
what funding sources there are for it.
Right,
Just
which is different than the original proposal, which is why I'm asking for the vote, but yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
Thank you,
sure,
Mr. Chair.
okay. Okay then, all those in favor? Unanimous? All, okay. Okay, so you folks,
We get funding from foundations, from the state, et cetera, to be able to help municipalities reduce their emissions and come up with practical solutions to provide people energy.
Great, we're not paying for it. Welcome.
appreciate you guys showing up too.
Thank you so much.
Any questions, should we?
Stay nearby, but I think we're set for now.
Okay.
you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's
Nice
a good
seeing you.
question, too. Thank you.
Okay, so we talked about having the next meeting in 2 weeks, and I'll see if we can get Priscilla and Ted to show up, one or both if at all possible, and talk about, would be the best place to do wastewater energy recovery, just because there is an open grant for that, and then also talk about just doing the whole utility thing. So, which, the conversation seems to be, and even, was Eversource is doing Framingham? Eversource did Framingham? Yeah. I heard someone describe it as saying, they still don't know how to sell this stuff. So there's still lots of issues to be addressed. So we'll have another meeting in 2 weeks. And, yes, sir?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Motion seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? Okay, we are adjourned at 8:05. Thank you very much.